I'm Susan with the Noonan Carnegie Library, and today I'm here with photography tips from Susan. We're going to talk about light today. In addition to being the Carnegie Director, I was also a professional photographer for 12 years, so I have a little bit of experience under my belt, so I just thought I'd give you some quick and simple photography tips. I know a lot of us are at home taking pictures of our family maybe because we can't have our regular photo sessions, so I thought I'd just give you some tips. And I think one of the most important things for me in photography is light. You don't really think about light that often in regular life, but light in photography is pretty much the fundamental basics. If you have good light, you can take good photos. If you don't have great light, you may not be able to get the photos that you want. So the most important thing I think is to look for the light. Start thinking about light and how light works on a person's face or a still subject. And there's all sorts of different kinds of light. There's front light, which is light that just is right here. There's backlight, where the light comes from the back. There's side light, there's rim light, and then you get into all sorts of other lights when you start working with external flashes and things like that. But the first thing I usually suggest people do is just go outside or go inside, wherever it is that you're trying to take a photo, and just stop and look around. And just be like, where is my light source coming from? Whether it's coming from a lamp or a window, or if you're outside, the sun, and just look at it and just think about it. What direction is it coming from? And that will help you decide where to put your subject, whether it's a person or an inanimate object or a pet, whatever it is. Because what you want to do is you want to get the best light, so when you take a photo, everything is nice and exposed where you can see everything, unless you're trying to create like a more moody photo where you want shadows and things like that. So the first thing I do, say for instance if I'm on a photo session with a family, is I look around and I say, okay, there's the sun, the light's coming this way, and usually how I like to take photos is where everyone's nicely exposed. You can see the eyes, where it's not like the eyes are dark and you're like, oh, I can't really see their eyes. That's kind of what I'm going for in my photos. I like that really nicely exposed look. And so I'm like, okay, so the sun is right here. And I like to photograph in what you call the golden hour, which is about an hour and a half before sunset. As the sun starts to set, everything just kind of warms up and the light becomes really pretty where it's not real high in the sky. Because a lot of times, like if you go out at noon to take photos, you'll notice the eyes kind of disappear. And it's because the sun's so high in the sky and it can create some really harsh shadows in the eyes. And since you really want to be able to see the eyes, the best thing to do is to shoot at golden hour, especially for people. But you don't have to do that. A lot of times when you're taking photos, you know, say you're at Mother's Day or a special event, you may not have a choice of when to do it. So that's why you kind of need to learn to use light wherever it is. But I personally prefer photographing either early in the morning or at the golden hour late at night. And early in the morning, the light's a little cooler, so it's not quite so beautiful and golden, but it's still not so high in the sky that it creates those harsh shadows. But you really can manipulate light as well. So you can usually do that through external flashes, whether they're on the camera or you can put flashes to the side. And that's a whole different advanced method of photography. If you really get into photography, you might want to learn how to do that because that can create great light. Now, for instance, we can talk a little bit about light right now. If you look at my face, you can see that I'm pretty well lighted. And that's because I have an external light source. But look what happens when I turn off my light source. See how all of a sudden the colors are a little drab. You get harsh shadows. You can't see my eyes as well. But then turn on my light source again. And because I have this set up a certain way, it then creates a nice lighting effect. So light is amazing, so you don't always have to use the sun. This is just an external ring light that I'm using right now. But in photography, what I use is like just an external flash, and I either have it on my camera pointed up and bouncing off the ceiling, or I have it like on a light stand over here creating maybe some side light. But there's all sorts of different kind of light. But really, the most important thing to remember in dealing with light in photography is just studying it. And sometimes you have to go out with your camera, whether it's, you know, a DSLR camera or even your iPhone, and just take one object and maybe take it outside and go outside every 2 hours and take a picture of it and see how the light changes on it. because it really will change depending on the sun. Or you can take it from room to room. Say you have a room that has a giant window with light just pouring in, and then you have a room maybe with a smaller window or no window at all, and you can see like how the light just really can change how your photo looks. Using really good light in your photo can change your photo from looking just okay to being a really pretty photo that you might want to keep forever and put on your wall. So I hope these little photography tips about light help. I hope you get a chance to just check out light, see how it works. And light really is fascinating when you start looking at it and learning about it. It's just, there's so many different types of light, and I just went over a few today, but you can really get into the study of light. And I recommend this book, Understanding Exposure by Brian Peterson. This was the book that my photography mentor suggested to me when I first started photography, and I read it from cover to end, and I did a lot of the exercises in here, and he's talking in here about understanding exposure, which is what you call taking a photo. And the exposure is how the photo looks. And a big part of this book is light. So he has a lot of exercises in here, kind of like the ones I talked about before, but he goes into like so much more detail. So I suggest if you're interested in photography and finding out more about how to take a great photo, that you check out this book. We do have it at the Carnegie, so you can come in and check it out. But let me know if you have any questions down here, and I hope this little tip on lighting helped. It was just a basic overview, but let me know if you want more, if you're interested in anything else about photography, and I'll have another photography tips for you soon. Thanks a lot.